The evening news was interrupted by a chilling alert, the kind that instantly silences a room and sends a ripple of unease through every household. The familiar jingle of the news was replaced by a blaring siren, and the words "breaking news" flashed urgently across television screens nationwide. A news anchor, visibly shaken and struggling to maintain composure, announced urgent developments from the West Philippine Sea. Her voice trembled as she relayed the gravity of the situation, her eyes betraying the fear and uncertainty that millions would soon share. The broadcast cut to harrowing footage. A small Philippine supply vessel, dwarfed by a looming Chinese Coast Guard ship, pummeled by a relentless barrage from a high-powered water cannon. The confrontation was not just tense, it was explosive, the kind of moment that would be replayed endlessly in the days to come. The force of the water shattered the ship's windows, sending shards of glass flying and forcing the Filipino crew to scramble for cover. The chaos inside the vessel was palpable. Shouts, hurried movements, and the unmistakable sound of fear. Captured on a crewman's phone, the video was raw and visceral. A modern David versus Goliath. The sailor's hands shook as he filmed, his voice barely audible over the roar of water and the cries of his fellow crewmen. The world was witnessing, in real time, the vulnerability and courage of ordinary Filipinos caught in the crossfire of international power plays. For millions of Filipinos, this was no longer a distant dispute discussed in classrooms or debated in coffee shops. It was a direct assault on their countrymen, in their own waters, and the shock was immediate. Faces around the nation turned grim as families huddled together, watching the events unfold with a mix of disbelief and anger. The footage spread like wildfire, going viral within minutes. Social media platforms lit up with outrage, concern, and a surge of patriotic fervor. People who had never before paid close attention to maritime disputes now found themselves glued to their screens, sharing updates and voicing their support for the embattled crew. Hashtags like @Nang West Philippine Sea and Sagar China Layas trended instantly, uniting Filipinos in a digital chorus of defiance. The online world became a battleground of its own, with netizens demanding justice and accountability. Filipinos everywhere, from the bustling streets of Manila to the far-flung communities of Dubai and beyond, shared the video. Overseas Filipino workers, already familiar with the ache of distance, felt the sting of helplessness and the urge to act. They called family back home, posted messages of solidarity, and demanded a stronger government response. The digital world became a national town square, amplifying collective anger and transforming individual outrage into a powerful, unified voice. Online petitions circulated, calls for protests grew louder, and the sense of community, of being in this together, became palpable. The incident was no longer just news, it was a shared national trauma, a moment that transcended social class, age, and region. In public spaces, strangers gathered around televisions, united by a common sense of vulnerability and resolve. Hugs were exchanged, prayers whispered, and a quiet determination settled over the crowd. As night fell, anxiety deepened. Families sat down to dinner in somber silence, the usual laughter replaced by hushed conversations about the looming threat. Parents struggled to explain the situation to their children, trying to balance honesty with reassurance, even as their own fears simmered beneath the surface. The attack at Ayungin Shoal was more than a maritime clash, it was a dramatic escalation in a long-standing conflict. The map on the screen highlighted the contested waters, a stark reminder of the stakes involved. Not just for the crew, but for the entire nation. For a nation with a proud history of resisting foreign powers, this felt like a new chapter in an old struggle. Memories of past protests and acts of defiance resurfaced, fueling a renewed sense of purpose. The Filipino spirit, tested time and again, was once more called to rise. The breaking news set the stage for a period of profound uncertainty and resolve. As the country braced for what might come next, one thing was clear. The events of that night would not soon be forgotten. They had become a rallying cry, a moment that would shape the nation's identity and its future. The shock from Ayungin Shoal rippled through every Filipino home, sending waves of disbelief and anxiety across the nation. What once seemed like a distant maritime dispute suddenly became a personal crisis, unfolding in real time on television screens and mobile devices. Families watched in silence, their faces etched with worry as the attack's images made geopolitics suddenly personal. The living rooms of Manila, Cebu, and countless provinces became spaces of collective concern, as parents and children alike tried to process the gravity of what they were witnessing. Parents struggled to explain the aggression to their children, searching for words to make sense of the violence and uncertainty. For many, it was the first time their children asked about the West Philippine Sea, or why their country was being threatened. Social media exploded with posts, memes, and debates, each share a small act of protest. Hashtags trended overnight, and timelines filled with calls for unity, outrage, and even humor as Filipinos tried to cope with fear through creativity and solidarity. Many changed their profile pictures to maps including the West Philippine Sea, a digital gesture of defiance and pride. It was a way to show the world, and each other, that they stood together in the face of aggression. The national mood soured, conversations everywhere turned serious. In cafes, jeepneys, and offices, people discussed the incident with a new sense of urgency, questioning what would happen next and what it meant for their future. The policy of quiet diplomacy was now widely seen as a failure. Editorials and opinion columns criticized the government's previous restraint, arguing that silence had only emboldened those who threatened the nation's sovereignty. Filipinos from all walks of life demanded a more assertive stance. Students, workers, and elders joined rallies, their voices rising in unison, calling for stronger action and a clear message to the world that the Philippines would not be intimidated. The attack united the nation in outrage, creating immense pressure on the government. Protesters filled the streets, waving flags and chanting for justice, their determination echoing from city centers to remote barangays. The incident transformed a foreign policy issue into a pressing domestic concern. News anchors led with the story, and politicians faced tough questions, forced to address the nation's fears and expectations in a way they never had before. The emotional weight was felt by everyone, from officials in tense meeting rooms to fishermen whose livelihoods depended on the contested waters. The sense of vulnerability was matched only by a growing resolve to defend what was theirs. The Filipino people were awake, angry, and expecting their leaders to act. Across the archipelago, a new sense of unity and purpose emerged, as ordinary citizens demanded not just answers, but real action to protect their nation's future. The incident at Ayungin Shoal, a remote and contested reef in the South China Sea, would soon capture the world's attention and ignite a new chapter in the ongoing maritime dispute. Here, the BRP Sierra Madre, a World War II-era ship intentionally grounded by the Philippines decades ago, stands as a battered sentinel. Its corroded hull and weathered decks are more than just relics, they are a living outpost, a symbol of defiance and sovereignty in the face of overwhelming odds. For years, this ship has been manned by a small, rotating detachment of Filipino Marines, holding the line in a lonely, windswept corner of the sea. These Marines, stationed far from home, endure harsh conditions and constant uncertainty. Their presence is a daily reminder of the Philippines' unwavering claim to the shoal, and their resolve has become legendary among their countrymen. But in recent months, resupply missions to the Sierra Madre have grown increasingly perilous. Chinese Coast Guard vessels, larger and more numerous, have begun to aggressively block, harass, and now even attack the Philippine supply ships, escalating tensions to dangerous new heights. The Uneza May 4, a civilian supply ship carrying food, water, and essential supplies, found itself surrounded by a wall of Chinese ships. Without warning, powerful water cannons were unleashed, battering the vessel and its crew in a show of force that shocked the world. The crew, unarmed ordinary mariners, were left reeling. Drenched, battered, and shaken, they clung to their mission, which was purely humanitarian, to bring aid to their fellow Filipinos stranded on the Sierra Madre. The chaos and fear on board were palpable as the ship rocked under the relentless assault. The aftermath revealed the true intensity of the attack. Shattered glass, twisted metal, and waterlogged equipment bore silent witness to the violence unleashed that day. It was a dangerous escalation, one that could not be dismissed as mere posturing. China's message was unmistakable. The Philippines, and by extension any nation that challenged Beijing's sweeping claims, was not welcome in these waters. The aggressive maneuvers and overwhelming show of force were meant to intimidate and isolate. This was not a random act but a calculated move. A deliberate act of intimidation, designed to force Manila to abandon its outpost and cede control of the shoal. The standoff at sea became a high-stakes confrontation, watched closely by the world. For the Philippines, this was more than just another incident. It was a line in the sand, a moment that demanded courage, unity, and resolve. The Marines on the Sierra Madre, battered but unbowed, stood as living proof of their nation's determination. The violence and destruction could not be ignored. The battered supply ship, its crew shaken but safe, became a symbol of resistance and the high cost of defending national sovereignty. The world watched as news of the attack spread. International media and foreign diplomats condemned the blatant use of force, calling it a clear attempt to enforce China's expansive and widely disputed claims by intimidation and violence. In the aftermath, the courage and unity of the Filipino crew became a rallying point for the nation. Their determination inspired a surge of national pride and resolve as citizens and leaders alike called for action. The incident at Ayungin Shoal demanded a response, not just from the Philippines, but from the international community. The world now faced a critical question. How far would China go, and who would stand up to defend the rules-based order at sea? The Ayungin Shoal clash was more than a maritime dispute, it was a direct assault on Philippine sovereignty. International law affirms the West Philippine Sea as part of the country's exclusive economic zone. China's actions violated this, threatening both sovereignty and livelihoods. Filipino fishermen have been harassed and driven from their traditional grounds, devastating local economies. The water cannon attack symbolized a broader economic strangulation. The area's untapped resources, oil, gas, fish, are vital for the nation's future. The fight is about more than territory, it's about survival and self-determination. The battered supply ship became a symbol of the nation's struggle for its soul. The government's response was immediate. President Marcos Jr. convened an emergency security meeting, signaling a new resolve. The Chinese ambassador was summoned and a strong diplomatic protest lodged. The Philippines launched a global diplomatic offensive, rallying allies and spotlighting China's aggression. In a televised address, the president condemned the attack and praised the crew's courage. He assured the nation not an inch of territory would be yielded. The military was placed on high alert, with increased patrols in the West Philippine Sea. The message was clear: the Philippines would not be intimidated. Swift, coordinated action reassured the public and signaled unity to the world. The nation stood firm, determined to defend its sovereignty. The South China Sea is a global trade artery. 1/3 of maritime shipping passes through it. The Philippines sits at its heart, making its waters crucial for regional security and commerce. Any conflict here could disrupt global supply chains and destabilize economies. For the Philippines, keeping these lanes open is a core national interest. The sea is also a flashpoint in the US-China rivalry. As a US treaty ally, the Philippines is at the epicenter of this contest. The region's stability hinges on what happens here. The struggle is not just local, it's about upholding international law. The outcome will shape the future of regional security. The world is watching. Facing aggression, the Philippines has strengthened its alliances. The Mutual Defense Treaty with the US now explicitly covers attacks in the South China Sea. Joint military exercises and intelligence sharing have expanded. Partnerships with Japan and Australia have deepened, leading to coordinated patrols and training. These alliances provide military, diplomatic, and moral support. The strategy: deter aggression through collective strength, not provoke conflict. The Philippines balances defense with dialogue, keeping lines open with Beijing. Integrated deterrence, modernization, alliances, diplomacy, protects national interests. Joint patrols internationalize the issue, showing the world stands with the Philippines. Unity makes coercion far more difficult. The West Philippine Sea crisis has driven the largest military modernization in Philippine history. The focus has shifted to territorial defense, with major investments in new hardware. The Navy now fields modern frigates and fast attack craft, boosting patrol capabilities. The Air Force has acquired FA-50 jets and plans for more advanced aircraft and surveillance systems. Coastal defense is being transformed with the acquisition of BrahMos anti-ship missiles. These systems create a formidable deterrent along the western coastline. The goal isn't to match China ship for ship, but to build a smart, asymmetric defense. Modernization enhances domain awareness and rapid response. The message: the Philippines is ready to defend its sovereignty. This transformation is about survival, not escalation. Beyond geopolitics, the conflict is a daily struggle for coastal communities. Fishermen face constant harassment, forced from traditional grounds and into poverty. Their catches have plummeted, local economies are suffering, and families are falling into debt. Yet their spirit remains unbroken. Many adapt, seeking new waters or alternative work, while some still risk contested areas for a decent catch. Their courage is remarkable, a testament to Filipino resilience. Fishermen's groups have become vocal, sharing their stories and fueling local activism. Their testimonies counter official denials and add a vital human dimension. This is about livelihoods, culture, and dignity. Their resolve inspires the nation. They are the civilian frontliners in the fight for sovereignty. Their story is the heart of the nation's struggle.